A sweep on the road for the A's. Plus, I'll have a hard-hitting commentary on Major League Baseball's Jackie Robinson Day. That's next on Curveballs and Changeups, a baseball podcast straight out of Sacramento. I'm Steve Harmon, and this is a podcast for A's fans and baseball fans in general. No straight fastballs here, folks, just a bunch of off-speed pitches to keep the hitters off balance. Maybe a few cutters and some riding heat just to keep you honest. I played the game. I once hit a grand slam home run in an over 30 baseball league. I covered the Bash Brother A's as a sports writer in the 1980s and early 90s. I've been a baseball fan since 1967 when the kid down the block introduced me and my brothers to the game, and my first major league game was at the Oakland Coliseum in 1969. My podcast tries to fill gaps that may be left out on other platforms. But also I want to be sure that we don't let the season get away from us. We should stop for a moment and look around, allow what just happened sink in a bit, make sure we don't forget some of the high notes and some of the low ones too, before we move on too quickly onto the next game and the next. A note, I'm doing separate episodes now for the A's and the Giants. You can listen to both wherever you can find podcasts. The 3-game sweep this week over the Chicago White Sox serves notice that the A's are a serious team. Yes, it was against the lowly Chicago White Sox. Truly terrible team. Feel badly for Max's son, Will Venable, that he has to go through this. As long as management understands he's there to oversee the disaster he was handed, at least he gets the experience. But these are the teams you got to beat, and they did that, the A's did, with an emphatic thumping. They outscored the White Sox 23-4 in 3 games and are now 9-10 on the season. Lawrence Butler, J.J. Bleday, and Brent Rooker all hit home runs Thursday, reminding everyone the A's power show isn't limited to Major League home run leader Tyler Sodorstrom. And then Sodorstrom reminded everyone that he is the leader with his 9th home run to cap off the 8-0 shutout yesterday. The A's got 6 scoreless from J.P. Sears. He's now 2-2 with a 3.13 ERA. Pitch count is still an issue. His last start, he had 101 pitches in 4 innings. This time it took 6 innings to get over that 100 mark, thanks to 6 full counts. But he did get through it, allowing only 3 hits and walking just 2. Got a big hug from manager Mark Kotsay after finishing the 6th. The numbers by the team for this series, the hitters just went wild. They hit 301 in the 3 games, 34 hits and 113 at-bats with a 342 on base and a 602 slug. They had 7 doubles, 3 triples, 2 by Max Schumann alone on Thursday, and then 7 home runs for the series. And with runners in scoring position, they were 9 for 31, which is a .290 batting average. The team hitting for the season, they've hit 27 home runs, which is 3rd most in the American League. They've had 164 base hits, which is 4th, walked 59 times, struck out 128 times, which is the fewest in all of the major leagues. They're also last in the majors in stolen bases. It's kind of a quandary there. When you're putting the ball in play, you would seem to be the kind of team that would be pesky, and then running the bases and stealing the bases would be part of that peskiness. But it's really putting the ball in play and hitting it out. They have a .252 batting average, which is 4th in the American League, and a .314 on base, which is 7th in the American League. And their slugging, by way of all of their home runs and doubles, is .435, which is 2nd in the American League and 4th in the major leagues. The starting pitchers in the White Sox series, they brought their overall team numbers way down. They went 16 2/3, gave up only 4 earned runs on 11 hits, walked 6, and struck out only 6. That's a 2.16 ERA and a 1.02 whip. The relievers were even better, 10 1/3 of scoreless ball, gave up 6 hits, walked 5, struck out 13, and their whip was 1.06. So combined, the A's in Chicago went 27 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, 17 hits, walked 11, 19 strikeouts, gave up 2 homers, and had a 1.33 ERA. And that, after all that, they are still 2nd worst in the American League in ERA with a 4.34 mark. So they have a long ways to go, but it was a good start in Chicago. They've given up 170 hits, which is 2nd most. They've walked 79, which is 2nd most. The whip against them is 1.46, which is worst in the major leagues. And 256 batting average against is third worst. And part of the problem is that they are going too deep into the counts, and they have actually averaged the most pitches per inning in the major leagues at almost 18 pitches. So at this point now, they're headed to Milwaukee to play the Brewers, and now's kind of a testing time to see what they can do against a quality team. Milwaukee is 10-9, not much better than the A's 9-10, but they've actually been doing better lately. So they faced the Brewers Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend. On Friday, JT Ginn makes his first start since his great season debut against the Mets last weekend. Gave up just one earned run in 5 2/3, struck out 6. He'll be going up against veteran Freddie Peralta, who has gone 23 innings with a 2.31 ERA with 28 strikeouts and an 0.98 WHIP, but he's only 1-1 to show for it. So he's going long enough to do well, but not long enough to get a decision. He did two-hit the Kansas City Royals over 8 innings 2 weeks ago, but that was a no decision. That was his best start of the year. But in his last 2 starts, he's been limited to 5 and 5 1/3 innings. It's because he's kind of edging up to that 100-pitch mark, and managers just are not going over that third rail at this point. On Saturday, it'll be Luis Severino, who is 0-3 on the season with a 4.01 ERA, and he finally makes his second start on the road. His first one, remember, was a really good one. It was the season opener against Seattle in Seattle, when he did not give up a run in 6 innings. Since then, he's pitched in Sacramento and paid the price, 11 earned runs in 18 2/3 innings. He'll be facing a 26-year-old rookie. His name is Chad Patrick. He was a 4th-round draft pick by Arizona in 2021, who was then released. I couldn't find a reason for why they did. He was then picked up by the A's for 8 games in their system in 2023, was released after that. But then when Milwaukee picked him up in 2024, he had a 14-1 record. So something happened to turn things around for him. The Brewers are babying him along. He's being allowed only an average of 80 pitches, so he's only gone 4 2/3, 5 1/3, and 4 1/3 innings in his 3 starts this year. But he's only given up 1 earned run in 14 1/3 innings. He has walked 8, struck out 12. In the minors, he struck out 334 in 312 innings, so obviously he has a big arm. He must have had some kind of injury issue to be used in such a tender fashion. Sunday, it'll be Jeffrey Springs, who is 3-1 with a 4.50 ERA now. He actually started this road trip out in Chicago with 5 innings in the A's 12-3 win. But because of a rough first inning, pitched close to 40 pitches in that inning, he settled down, but he went over the 100-pitch mark after 5 innings, so he had to give way to the bullpen. The Brewers have not yet announced their starter for Sunday. All right, well, the main show, the talk of the town, Tyler Sodorstrom. What a season he's having so far. He hopes he never has to wake up from this dream. He's making it like it's 1969 and he's Reggie Jackson all over again. He hit 2 home runs Tuesday, both 3-run shots in the series opener, and then another Thursday to give him a major league leading 9 for the year with little less than half of April still left. Remember, Jackson in 1969, he was a 23-year-old slugger just coming of age. He hit only 6 homers in April that year, but by the time June came around, he hit 14 that month, and then another 11 in July, and that was the year he hit 47 home runs. Soderstrom is also 23. He's taken the league by storm. He had 9 home runs all of last year in 189 at-bats. He's done the same thing in 73 at-bats this year with 18 RBI and is hitting .315 with an OPS of 1.095. That's on base plus slugging. You know, he's always been pegged as a future star, and he's always been seen as a guy who has power just ready to be unleashed. He's a good story, a kid out of Turlock, straight out of 209, as Dallas Braden reminds us. It'll be interesting to see how the league adjusts to him. Right now, he's not missing on the heat, and especially he's not missing on the off-speed stuff. His last 4 home runs have come off of either sliders inside or changeups, but the sliders are not breaking deep enough into the zone, and he's getting ahead of it, and he is hitting it out. There was a scary moment during the White Sox series during infield warm-ups between innings on Tuesday. Sodorstrom took a throw from shortstop Jacob Wilson square on his exposed gloved hand. It looked like he just wasn't paying attention and wasn't expecting a hard throw from Wilson. But the trainer came out. He was hopping all over in pain, but he did stay in the game, and he has played in the next 2 games after that. So apparently no big deal, but that was a little bit of a fright. And it always is when a player starts out so strong, the one thing you worry about is some kind of injury that stops his momentum. So his home run Thursday was icing on the cake for the A's, actually. Before that, it was Lawrence Butler, J.J. Bleday, and Brent Rooker, who had all hit home runs to put the game away. And I mentioned those 3 because I've been watching them and how they've approached their at-bats. As Sodorstrom has really carried the team with the power, these 3 have been just kind of stroking away, working on their swings, not shown much power. Brent Rooker had 4 home runs, sure, but all in all, these 3 have, first of all, Bleday and Brent Rooker in particular have started out very slowly. But in recent days, you could see them just working on getting line drives, hitting line drives, working their stroke, and swinging down on the ball, and focusing on good at-bats, picking up hits here and there. And then you saw it finally come to fruition. Bleday was hitting 167 on April 6th. Since then, he's gone 9 for 30, and that includes 2 doubles and a single that he had on Wednesday, and then he hit his home run on Thursday, and now he's hitting 227. 4 days ago, Butler was hitting 245 with 1 home run. But starting with the last game against the Mets on Sunday, he's gone 8 for 18. And his last hit was yesterday against the White Sox, a 423-foot blast just inside the foul pole. And remember, that wind was howling in. Every other ball that was hit to right field was pushed back to the infield. That ball went through the wind, would have probably been a good 460 feet if not for it. So after that last hit, going 8 for 18 on the road so far, Butler is now hitting 296, right where people expected him to be. And Rooker had gone 9 games without a home run. And, he's hitting out of the 2 spot, and I had, said quietly into my podcast here that I thought Rooker needed to be moved down and out from that 2 spot, mostly because he just was not the right person to work, situational spots where, for instance, when Butler would get on second base, you needed to get him over to third base, and Rooker just was not that guy. He would be pulling the ball or striking out. So finally, yesterday, he was put into the cleanup spot, and he hit a home run. And before that, he'd been hitting the ball pretty squarely, but was 6 for 23 in the last 6 games with 5 singles and a double. And then Thursday, he got 3 more hits, including his 5th home run, and it raised his batting average from the start of that time period from 185 to 232. And I'm going to say that he's probably due for a nice power surge at this point. Now, on Soderstrom's 2 home run day, Butler and Rooker were the table setters. So this is what I was talking about. These 2 have been just working on their stroke, getting on base, winding up on base with Soderstrom up, and that resulted in a pair of 3-run home runs. In the first inning, they both had base hits on hard ground balls up the middle before Soderstrom's first 3-run homer. And in the 6th, Butler followed Max Muncy's 2-out double with an RBI single to center field, and Rooker followed with another base hit to center. Just stroke it up the middle, and then let Soderstrom do the damage, and he unloaded with another bomb more than halfway up the stands in right field for his 2nd home run of the day. So now that Rooker appears locked in, I'm hoping he stays in the cleanup spot, as I recommended. And it looks like Jacob Wilson is a good choice as the number 2 guy. Here's a for instance. On Thursday, after Butler led off the game with a double, Wilson, hitting number 2, had a great off-field approach and drove a bullet down the right field line for an RBI double. At minimum, he was trying to get the runner over, but Wilson is also the kind of guy who naturally strokes to right field and is Mr. Base Hit, and he reaped the reward there. So if these guys are all hitting at the same time, the A's are an offensive team to worry about, especially with the power. We shall see. Now, of course, there are some warning signs, and that is mostly their defense. Their defense continues to show weakness. Even after official scores took 2 A's errors off the books from the weekend series with the Mets, they still had 13 errors in 18 games. And then on Thursday, they added another 2 for 15. They had played error-free ball Wednesday, breaking a string of 4 straight games with at least 1 error. But they were right back to it on Thursday. And it was Max Muncy, once again, who's in the middle of it. He had 4 going into Chicago, though 1 was taken away on that official score reversal, but he got his 4th right back when he was charged with 1 on Thursday. And then there was another play where he wasn't charged with an error. That was in the opening game, but he showed just how inexperienced he is. There was just a perfectly placed double play ground ball hit to him, and he let it play him, and it, of course, bounced off his glove. And thankfully, he's very athletic, so he's able to grab it and make a desperate backhanded flip to Jacob Wilson. It went a little wild, and Wilson had to make a long stretch for it to get the force out. But it was just another example of this. So though it wasn't an error, it was a play that cost the A's at that point. And it's not all Muncy. In Game 1 of that series in Chicago, Mitch Spence botched an easy comebacker. It was just a nice little high, soft hopper, and he fielded it, but he dropped it as he made the exchange. These are little sloppy plays that take away from the professionalism. I mean, I saw him afterwards kind of laughing with his teammates about it, but it's the kind of thing that brings your professionalism down, and I know that it's bothering Mark Kotsay. So we'll see. It's a young team, and for instance, Max Muncy is playing out of position. Kotsay has made the decision to let him play and let him develop in the major leagues at a position that he's not quite comfortable in. So I guess we're going to take our lumps. I do know that Luis Urias on the bench is a professional fielder. He is one of the best, and if you're looking for stability, he's a guy to go to. He also can hit. That would be at the expense of developing Max Muncy, but maybe at some point what's going to happen is Urias takes over at second. Muncy goes down to Las Vegas in AAA and is able to make his mistakes there. That's typically how it would go. But we shall see how that goes. I mean, Muncy also has a bat. He has shown that when he gets a hold of it, he's got real good line drive power, and it's always fun to watch him swing the bat. Although, he's still inconsistent. He's right around 200 here on April 18th. I did want to do a little recap of Game 2, which is the non-Sodorstrom game. It was a 3-1 win over the White Sox, the one game that Tyler Sodorstrom went quiet. And that was when Gio Urshela had the big hit. And that was a 2-run triple to break a 1-1 tie and gave them the ultimate final score of 3-1. The most triples that Urshela has ever had was 3, and that was in 2022. He's had 1 each of the last 2 years, so he's already hit his quota. We'll see if he can get another one along the line here. Now, that was another nice start by Osvaldo Bido. He went 5 2/3, gave up just 1 earned run and walked only 1, struck out nobody. He's now 2-1 with a 2.61 ERA in 20 1/3 innings. I had a question. Why did Kotsay feel the need to take Bido out with 2 outs in the 6th with no one on and a 3-1 lead? He'd only thrown 83 pitches. Kotsay had the answer. It was cold. was in the low 40s, and Kotsay didn't want to push Beto, who's not accustomed to cold weather as a Dominican. Kotsay said, quote, "Tonight was a tough night and probably the coldest game we've played. The conditions were tough. I would imagine from his standpoint of just trying to spin the ball and be able to feel his hand out there. Both these cold games, he's done a nice job." So he's protecting him, and as we get into warmer weather, we'll see Beto stretched out. It was interesting. There was a little bit something made out of Beto not striking out anybody, which in this day and age, of course, of max out 95 arms out there is a rarity. Beto actually has a strikeout arm, but a win by an A starter without a strikeout hasn't been done since 2022. The key to this one was soft contact. White Sox hitters' average exit velocity on 21 balls in play off of Beto was 87.2 miles an hour, according to Martin Gallegos of MLB.com. So, and nobody's got a problem with that. If you're going to get the job done with soft contact, who needs the strikeouts? Strikeouts build pitch count. Now, last year, Beto was 5-3 with a 3.41 ERA in 63 in the third innings, and he had 63 strikeouts. So he is a strikeout pitcher as defined, but at this point they didn't need strikeouts. But the one thing that came out of this start was that he is a guy the A's can rely on as a top starter. Beto was quoted by MLB.com, quote, "It's a big opportunity for me. I feel super happy to be in the rotation as a starter. I feel proud. I feel like I can't let myself or the team down. They gave me this opportunity, and I have to take full advantage of it and continue." So it'll be really fun to watch him develop. And when you have that kind of pitcher behind some veterans, it just deepens your rotation so that you do have some confidence that this could be a successful season. Now, a little darkness here. Jose Leclerc, I don't mean to say it in the same sentence, but he had another shaky outing, and it's becoming a concern. Didn't give up a run, but he left with 2 outs in the seventh with the bases loaded in the Beto game. And it's a little befuddling. He makes good pitches and looks dominant at times, but then he gets himself into trouble with, I think, poor pitch selection and poor execution. And so I think the A's are still determined to give him a shot. They'll probably be putting him in less leverage positions, but he is definitely a puzzle to be solved. And in that game, Tyler Ferguson and Mason May closed it out with 2 1/3 hitless innings, May blowing it by 3 White Sox for his 5th save. And just to go back for a second on the first game, a 12-3 win over the White Sox. As I said, Jeffrey Springs got the win. 5 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, 3 hits, walked 3, struck out 4. And all of that damage what happened in the first inning on a 3-run homer by former Cal Berkeley star Andrew Vaughn. The White Sox would score only 1 run for the rest of the series. That's how good the A's pitching and how bad the White Sox hitting was. And then, so after the first inning, Jeffrey Springs gave up only 1 hit and 2 walks. The rest of the way, he ended on 93 pitches. And in that game, more great bullpen work from Justin Sterner with 1 scoreless. He's now gone 9 1/3 scoreless with 14 strikeouts. And then Mitch Spence turned in 3 scoreless for his first save, and he's lowered his ERA to 5.75 after in his last 9 innings in relief, he's given up only 3 earned runs. So it's the Brewers in Milwaukee coming up. Since their opening series against the Yankees, when they were torpedoed in a sweep, they lost by scores of 3-2, 20-9, and 12-3, and then another drubbing, 11-1 to the Royals. The Brewers have actually done really well. They've gone 10-5. They just came off beating the Tigers 2 of 3 to start their homestand and had Thursday off. And then some news on the Brewers front. They're calling up one of their top prospects, third baseman Caleb Durbin. And that's supposedly to give some punch that they've been missing at the third base spot. He was a player brought over in the deal that the Yankees sent over in exchange for Devin Williams. So he was a top prospect, and he'll be making his major league debut against the A's. He's a speedster. He's stolen 113 bases in 294 games in the minors. All right, 1 second here. Just a drink of water before I have a word on another Jackie Robinson Day, which is celebrated this week around the major leagues. Every player wore number 42. Teams held ceremonies. Ballparks showed video tributes. Players had specially designed equipment. And Major League Baseball reminded America that Jackie Robinson helped spearhead the civil rights movement in 1947 with the integration of its sport. MLB.com, in its reporting, kept with the positive vibes with a story that started out, quote, "The diversity of MLB rosters is as strong as ever, and the effects of the league's efforts to improve its percentage of black players at the highest levels are making an impact." Well, first of all, the diversity they're talking about really is of the number of international players. As for African-American players, MLB touted the first year-over-year increase in the percentage of black players since 2018. But that would be 6.2% this year over the 6% black players represented in 2024. MLB.com did not mention that it's still the lowest percentage of black major leaguers since the mid-1950s, when baseball was still slow to embrace black players after Jackie Robinson broke what was then called the color barrier, which should now be more appropriately called the segregation line. All right, now there are now 3 black managers and 1 black general manager. A total of 59 black players appeared on opening day active and inactive lists. 18 other black players on MLB 40-man rosters were in the minor leagues. 3 of them recalled after opening day. Still, what does that actually look like on big league rosters today? According to the USA Today's Bob Nightingale, who writes extensively on this topic, there are 13 teams with no more than 1 black player on their opening day roster, including 2 teams with no black players. 9 teams have at least 3 black players. This is a far cry from my younger years, when black ball players consistently made up 15% of major league rosters. The peak was reached in 1975 when 19% of all major leaguers were black. Willie McGee, the former Giant and A, and most known as a Cardinal, spoke about the jarring difference last year. Quote, "When we played, it wasn't really a thing," he said. "Pretty much every team had black players. It wasn't as noticeable as it is now." Let me end with an excerpt from a piece I wrote for the baseball website, The Spitter, a couple years ago that still reflects how I feel about how Major League Baseball celebrates Jackie Robinson. Here goes. "We all patted ourselves on the back and congratulated ourselves for our historic achievement and the distance we've moved from the time when Major League Baseball enforced its corrupt, cruel, and corrosive system of segregation and exclusion of black ball players. Why not educate people about the actual struggle that Robinson and many other black ball players went through? Yes, the barriers were lowered, but it took time, even after Robinson came to the majors, for blacks to have full access to the game. Remember, another 12 years went by after Robinson before the Boston Red Sox became the last team to add a black player. That was Elijah Pumpsie Green. Side note, he would go on to be my assistant coach at Berkeley High School in the late 70s. If the true history were told during our celebration of Jackie Robinson, we would hear the struggles of black ball players who came after Jackie in the 50s and 60s, if not later. How many stars did we lose to racial stresses that they had to endure as they began their professional careers? A terrific book on Dick Allen called God Almighty Hisself by Mitchell Nathanson laid out the painfully racist system he had to endure as he put up Hall of Fame numbers, even a full generation after Jackie Robinson. There was a long passage on Dick Allen's rise through the system, the Phillies system, in which he was really left on his own as he played in some of the southern towns that had affiliates of the Phillies. And there was just no help at all in guiding him through the difficult times. The Classic Baseball Era Committee finally understood the true success of Dick Allen's career when they elected him to Baseball's Hall of Fame last year, where he will be inducted this year. Another book I highly recommend is Jules Teigel's Baseball's Great Experiment, Jackie Robinson and His Legacy. That was published in 1983, but it is still a stunning historic accounting of the issues of black struggles for equal treatment in baseball before, during, and after Jackie Robinson. Understanding the history, truly understanding the tragic story that preceded 1947 and continued for years after, would be a true celebration of Jackie Robinson. Okay, that's all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in to Sacramento's Curveballs and Changeups with me, your host, Steve Harmon. You can find Sacramento's Best Baseball Podcast on Apple Tunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts. Please hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when my next podcast is up. Until next time, lay off the slider, low and away.